Hi, everyone. Welcome to our latest Google Plus Hangout. I'm Monica Corcoran, and I'm the managing editor of YourShot, which is our online photo community, National Geographic's online photo community called YourShot. We have almost 500,000 members, and today we are here with Marie McGrory.
Hey everyone.
Who's a photo editor who literally looks at every image that you guys submit to the site, which is amazing. And we get almost 7,000 photos a day from all around the world. The purpose of today is actually to speak with Dan Westergren, who is director of photography for Traveler magazine, which they're celebrating their 30th year of the magazine. And in celebration of that, we basically decided to have a sense of place YourShot assignment, which we just published the story. And there were 24, basically Dan edited over
almost 19,000 photos.
Yeah, 19,000 photos to 24.
Photos.
And so we just published that story. And we also have with us Amanda from Chicago, a YourShot member.
Hi, Amanda.
Hey, Amanda.
Hi.
Hey.
All right.
And Amanda submitted a photo to the assignment as well. So Dan, take it away.
So the assignment on YourShot was really in celebration of 50 years of Traveler magazine. And the photos went through 3 years of magazine. Next issue of Traveler, November, will be 30 photographs from each year. We just wanted to show what we thought were the best.
Hey, Dan.
We lost Dan there.
So, yeah, just to explain to everyone online who's watching right now, Dan and his fellow traveler teammates are actually on the Potomac River, right by Key Bridge in Washington, D.C. So we're just having a little bit of, trying to get him back on, and bear with us for just a moment. But
Amanda, can you tell us about what you submitted to Sense of Place? Or what that experience was?
So I submitted some photos that I took when I was doing a course in Antarctica. So I thought of all the places that are easily recognizable to have an actual sense of place, Antarctica would probably be one of the best shots I had for that story.
Yeah, that's neat. That's a big trip to take.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm back now.
You're good. Hey, Dan.
Hi. So what we wanted to do here today, we are on the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a very photogenic destination, and it's really easy to get a sense of place. You just have to include the Lincoln Memorial or the Washington Monument. It's really pretty simple. So I thought I would try to show us another side of Washington, D.C. And so what we've got going on here is we're on the Potomac River underneath Key Bridge at Jack's Boathouse Rental. And so, the first thing, somebody asked me, how do you take pictures in the middle of a day and, to get beautiful pictures? And the answer is you really can't. You can try. It's actually fall in early spring. It's a little easier because the light is just a little bit better. But one of the first things he looks colorful. So here's a picture of kayaks that if you frame it up just right, we got into the stream. And then that's a picture of kayaks. It doesn't react to the place. It's a little too much. It could be anywhere, right?
I think we might have lost Dan again.
Really an impossible goal to achieve a perfect sense of photograph. But if we're thinking about this kind of thing, we have a lot better chance that the photo will speak on more than one level. Right now, I'd love to run through. There's a selection of photos that we used for the YourShot assignment, and that assignment was sense of place. And so we've got about 10 or 12 photos, and let's have a look at what the YourShot members showed us for sense of place.
I love this image.
So they did such a great job, you know, that, well, of course, when a cynic would say, when you look through 19,000 photos, you better find 24 good ones. But there was a few things that I was thinking about specifically in choosing the photographs. You know, we like to talk about postcard photographs, that if you can study photographs and go to a beautiful place, it's pretty easy. You wait till the light is just right, and you take a picture that looks like a postcard. It looks like the pictures that everybody else had. And so when I was choosing these photos, I tried to go one step further. In the captions of the photos afterwards, I mentioned sometimes the picture may not be perfect technically. It might be a little bit messy, or everything is not just quite right. But if you try to find a picture that has a little bit more soul, that's probably a good thing. So I'll let the jet go past.
Yeah, that was a really stunning story you ended up putting together, Dan.
All right, Monica.
Yeah.
How are we doing for the photos? Did we get a chance to look at all of them?
Yeah, we just saw
I think we just flipped through all of them, yeah.
Okay, great, because the sun is really bright here, and I'm just kind of looking at a black rectangle, so that's all right. What we're going to do right now is stick me out on the line and say, okay, Dan, go make a nice picture with a sense of place of another side of Washington, D.C. To help us out, we got Ben Fitch over there. He's providing a second camera angle of view. We've got Kevin Kunitaki, all of us from Traveler Magazine and Traveler Online, and behind me is Tyler Metcalf. And Tyler, if everything works out right, I'm going to take a few pictures, and he's going to beam them to you so you can see what I'm doing out here on the river. So right now, we'll just push off from the dock and go down the river a little bit. Now, Tyler, what we're going to do is you can go ahead and turn around and head back upriver. I'm going to get a little bit of distance, and I can see that with just Tyler paddling, the current is taking us downriver, even though we don't want to go that way. But this is just the way it is. Somebody asked earlier this morning on a question about what do I do about protecting my cameras. Unfortunately, sometimes you just have to sacrifice your cameras. I'm clever about it. If it's raining, I'll just carry a Ziploc bag, and you can put your whole camera in a Ziploc bag, let the lens poke out. It does a really good job. The most useful way to do that actually is to use an umbrella. Stick it in the corner of your ear. Let the umbrella take care of the problems there. So look at this. We're back to the scene here. And what we're looking at is we're rolling down the river. And this is the Potomac Boat Club. This is one of the oldest buildings on the waterfront. It's been here since the late 1890s. And this provides a sense of place. As soon as we go through and we clear the trees here, I'm going to try and take a picture of the boathouse. There, that star on there is very important. Everybody around here knows that the star is a symbol of the Potomac Boat Club. So I'm going to shoot a picture. Now I'm showing the water, and I don't like the dock very much. If I just look up, I think the cloudy sky is a lot more interesting, and so I'll just make a better looking picture by showing that.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
We got a question from a Your Shop member, Carol Worrell.
Yes.
This might actually make sense right now to ask it. She's wondering, do you spend time observing a scene before you shoot, or is it spontaneous when you see something that excites you, or both?
It's a little bit of both. I think a lot of times you think ahead of time where you're going. There's not an accident that we're down here where we are right now. I knew that this was a place that was pretty beautiful looking, and that would be a good place to get photos. So that's the first step. The second step is we just really want to head out and see what we're going to find. A lot of it is just snapping pictures as we go along and seeing what works out best. And we're going to visit the Potomac Boat Club here. All right. Tyler, is there any chance you could send that picture of the boat club to them? All right. So, Monica, does that make sense? My answer of, it's not really that straightforward.
I think there's a little bit of, like you're saying, you guys planned for this morning, this afternoon, but they're just going to be spontaneous things that happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of, she says, is it spontaneous or do you spend time observing or both? But in a way, it's all three. Sometimes it's one or the other, and sometimes it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so how are we doing with the transmission there? Okay, great. So now what I'm going to do, to answer the second half of that question, I'm looking at the bridge right now. Some people asked me, how do you take a nice picture in the middle of the day? If you look at the video feed that I'm sending you, it actually is rendering the bridge pretty dark, which makes the clouds look kind of interesting. So when I take a real photograph, I'm going to play with that, and I'm actually going to underexpose the shot in order to favor the clouds. So, but that means the bridge is going to be black. So I have to be responsible for the shape of the bridge to make sure that the bridge turns out just as well as I think it can be. So I'm going to ask Tyler to head us back up, and we're going to go straight towards that first piling on the bridge. And I don't like the view from here. That's the problem. And so you're asking if it's spontaneous. The reason I don't like the view is it's too linear. It's just a bridge heading straight across the river. So as we're going to go straight towards the bridge now, all of a sudden my angle of the bridge is going to be much more dynamic. And so we're going to be able to get a picture that shows part of the bridge up close, the rest of the bridge receding into the distance. And so right now, Tyler's going to pretend that he's trying out for the Olympic team in kayaking, and he's going to get me right up here. Do you see how the angle to the bridge changes? Now it's becoming a much more dynamic composition.
Hey Dan, while you're heading over there, we actually have your photo from the boathouse here to share.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Can we take a look at that?
Yeah, sure. All right, so this is, now it's starting to look interesting to me. It makes this bridge look very majestic, and that's the whole reason we came here. And you can see that as I look down the river, okay, Tyler, we're going to coast right now. And so let me shoot a few more pictures. We'll see if we can't send that off to you, but I'm really liking the way this feels. Of course, the light is terrible, so I'm going to underexpose by 2 stops to make it look very ominous.
Actually, that brings up an interesting question that somebody sent in. Ted Mecklenburg was wondering, what's your strategy for shooting during midday hours when the sun is out and there's too much contrast?
So what I've done here is, Tyler, send the very last one you get. So I set the exposure to make the clouds look wonderful. That means the bridge is going to be black because I've underexposed it and I don't want a white sky. There's another way to do that, is to do the complete opposite and shoot with the bridge with the sky overexposed, and then you just have this shape of the bridge with the white sky. Let's try that too. Yeah, that's not anywhere near as interesting. And the real answer to that question, if we have the time and the inclination, that if you're someplace in the middle of the day, that's when you're scouting, and you would actually come back in the evening when the light gets better. And it might get better in 5 minutes. I mean, we've got the sun coming in and out. Oh, wait. Oh, look at this. See, I misjudged it. Now, the closer we get to the bridge, the more interesting it looks. So let's try a few shots here. Oh, look at that. You can see Arlington, Virginia over on the other side. And so that helps give it a sense of place as well. So
you just shot with the silhouetted bridge and the clouds, we have it here.
Okay, it's not working real great, is it? I'm going to try the opposite now. I'm going to blow the sky completely.
Try harder, Dan.
There. Okay, wait, let's do it again. This is 3 stops overexposed because I'm including a lot of the sky in the picture. Okay, I'm going to ask Tyler to try and send that one, and we can compare those 2 pictures. Yeah. Wow, you know, it's kind of funny. You can't just go where you want to be when you're in a boat. I find myself wanting to jump out of the boat and step about 10 feet to the right there to get, oh, but look, wait. Okay, you see this gal in the kayak heading away? If I look this direction, the exposure of the sky is more closely matched to the exposure of the bridge. And so it's really, that's what it's all about sometimes. So now we're actually going to go under the bridge, and we'll see if we can't photograph. Right now we've been essentially photographing the back side of the bridge, the side that's in the shadow. So let's let's try to solve that problem by just going to the other side of the bridge.
You know,
Now, go ahead.
I was just going to say that just one more point about Ted's question is that the nice thing for us is that this is our backyard. So the reality is today's not that great a day, but or if you're out midday sun, you can just go out again. Like you said, go scout it out.
Okay, now look at this. You can see without me sending a picture that we're entirely in the shadow, and this young lady in the kayak is the same exposure as the bridge. And the bridge is kind of interesting. It's not an interesting like the whole bridge picture, but it's a wonderful quality of light under here.
Yeah.
It's just, so that's the other thing too, is that there might be the light that you thought was going to be the perfect light for your picture. I was really stuck on showing this from the other side, and now I realize I had it wrong. I really needed to look at from where we were coming. So now that we're under here, we're going to turn around. You guys are going to start coasting because I'm going to use you as a subject now. And so here we've got, the lighting is much easier to deal with from this side. But we still, you see how, okay, go ahead and send the last one I sent. So we're sending another photo, and this one has got a picture of our compatriots here in their boat. And what you're going to see is that the sky is completely white, but there's nice tones on the kayak and the bridge. And it's really just about trying to figure out what the light, you know, what have you been given? Now,
Let's see.
as I'm sitting, go ahead.
Sorry, you
as I-
put it in.
Did you get one of those pictures in?
Not
We're
yet.
waiting for it in right now.
Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is you see that as we're drifting closer to this bridge abutment, it's a really nice angle to look down the bridge, and I'm going to ask Tyler to bring me forward about 10 feet, and I'm going to shoot this picture. We'll do it with a telephoto lens, and we'll stack this photograph up. So because I can't get the sky and the bridge to have a proper exposure, I'm going to just try to take the sky, minimize the sky in my photograph. And here you see, ultimately it ends up being a picture of a kind of a cool bit of graffiti, but it's also an architectural study of the bridge. Now,
Photo you just took is up here.
okay,
Yeah,
how did it look?
the difference in light on that side of the bridge is huge.
Yeah. So let's try it from this side of the bridge, try underexposing, and we'll do the same thing and see what happens, because I've got a spot of sunlight on the bridge right here, which I didn't really expect to have. And so that way I can underexpose. Oh, that's kind of cool. If Tyler can, we'll send this last one and then we'll take some questions. What I think I just saw is that the sunlight was hitting the graffiti on the bridge. I underexposed the picture to try to get a little bit of detail in the sky. Wait a minute, go forward. Let's try this again. The sun is holding out for me. It's funny, you can see it through my video feed. There's just like a spotlight on that graffiti. And what I want is a little bit more of the arch showing through the other side of the river. I'm forcing the exposure to underexpose because I really just want more color than is going on normally here. Let's see how that looked. And what we want is a little bit more. So we're going to go forward even more. I'm looking for the arch, and here we go. Okay, great. Now, let's see what that looked like. That's kind of cool. If you could send 2 of that sequence of pictures there. Now, in order to get a picture that would satisfy the Your Shot editor doing his sense of place picture, you would have to have a picture of this exact spot at sunrise when the graffiti artist was there. I mean, we're honestly, we're always trying to push it to that next level. It's one thing to go out and like, oh, let's go for a little half-hour ride on the boat and try and get a shot, but it takes a great deal of planning or just coming back to the same place again and again to get the great shots. I just remember one more thing that I would try, and let's see if I can sit cross-legged in this boat without tipping it over. Okay, it worked. All right, Tyler, the other last one we're going to do is, since the picture's really, we need a splash of color in this picture, and I'm going to kind of take the easy way out and shoot a picture of the front of my kayak. And it's another way it adds a "you are there" kind of feeling to the picture. And see, I had my exposure set to 2 underexposed, which is obviously not the setting to have for that picture I just described. So I'm doing it again. Tyler, can you rotate the front of the boat to the right? You can see this through the video feed, but okay, a little bit more. Oh, look at that. I love secondary elements. We got this other boat coming in the background. All right, let's say, but I'm going to wait until they get, you see they get lost their heads in the trees, and as soon as they get in front of the piling, you'll see them. Now watch their paddles. See, oh, you can see them now. Where were they? Okay. And yeah, they're out of focus in the background, but okay. That one. Tyler, send the second to the last photo. And so here we are in the river. I think I probably beat this dead horse of trying to take a picture of the Key Bridge. Does anybody have, let's see if there's any questions about what we're doing or what we should be doing.
Yeah, we have a ton of questions.
Okay.
Let's see here. Oh, here's a good one, actually, considering you just had that the other kayak come into view. We have a member from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, who asked, here's the president. Can you include people in your shots of scenery, or would you separate the two? If you can include people, do you ask permission before taking photos?
In the United States of America, the legal precedent is that you are allowed to take pictures of anybody in a public place. That you're within your rights. Whether it is like kind to do that, that may be a different thing. Usually if it's just somebody in the landscape and they're walking by, I go ahead and take a picture. If we use those pictures for editorial use, which is much of what we do at National Geographic, we don't need permission to get the pictures. If you want to use it for like a Verizon cell phone ad, you would absolutely need permission. So,
okay.
And if you look at the pictures I chose, I think even in the comments on the Your Shot assignment, somebody said, oh, it looks to me like this was sense of place pictures of people. And yeah, that's the way, I mean, at National Geographic, our stock in trade, our history is interesting people in the places where they live. And we just live and die by combining those two things together.
Yeah.
So Dan, on a similar note, right now you're shooting in DC as a local with a local's lens. But when you're traveling to other places, how do you make sure that you're getting the authentic sense of place in your pictures and not the traveler's sense of place in your photos?
That's a good question. We start with the sort of the cliche, if you will, and I admit to standing at gift shops looking through the postcards of a place to try and find those iconic destinations. There's nothing, you know, there's no fighting that sometimes, but then you need to go off and try and make those iconic places your own. And what I find an effective way to do that is try to meet the local people. Stop for lunch, you know, don't go to lunch at McDonald's. Try to find the old diner or some really nice, distinctive place and talk to people. You know, when in my youth, I would have been referred to as a wallflower. I would no sooner talk to somebody than just stand in the corner facing the wall. And for bringing a camera on my travels, it turns me into a completely different personality. I'm so committed to getting what I hope are great photographs that I will talk to anybody shamelessly. I'll walk up to strangers on the street and say, hey, I love your hat. You really have a good look going on. Can I take your picture? Do you know anybody else who lives in this town? It's just really, you find a person who lives there, you talk to them, and you let those people lead you from one person to the next, and hopefully you find, you know, the authentic view of the place.
Hey, Dan, we have another question here that kind of fits in nicely with this bit. It's from Stuart, and he's asking, physically moving is a great way to get a new perspective, but how do you visualize the picture before you take it and innately know how to make the subject shine?
That really just comes from experience of looking through a camera and taking a lot of pictures. For me, I was able to have that experience short-circuited or shortcut by being a photo editor. And I think that I'd have to say I learned more than anything by looking through raw photographs taken by Steve McCurry, Bob Christ, Dave Harvey. The opportunity I had when I was a young photo editor to look through their pictures before they saw them, it was just priceless. And I could see as they moved into a room, I could see them change lenses. I could see what they did to make it, to render the world photographically. And that's really what we're trying to do, is to try and take a three-dimensional view that we see with our two eyes and reduce it to a rectangle on a flat piece of paper or on a flat screen.
You know, that's an interesting point about the different lenses. We got a couple of different questions about, you know, sort of, you know, I'm an amateur photographer. I don't have a lot of money to spend on equipment. You know, should I just get a point and shoot and be more concerned about storytelling and not so much about the technical aspects of photography? What would you say to that?
I say that's absolutely right. And my best photo tip I could give you right now about finding a camera is to get one that's a couple years old. If you go buy like a Nikon, you know, a D31, I can't remember, you know, the numbers are hard to keep straight, but if you, like everybody goes and gets a new camera because the latest camera came out, so you go get the camera that they got rid of because they had to have the newest camera. I mean, that's the way I've always worked photographically. For me, it's because I can never buy just one camera. I almost always have to have two in case one goes down. But yeah, find used gear. It's a great way, you know, great way to work.
Yeah.
Hey, Tyler, while we're wandering around, there's a pipe coming out of the bank here. See if you can find it. Okay.
Well, and also I think your idea, I mean, you don't have to be a photo editor to look at hundreds of images.
Yeah.
I mean, just going to museums, going to galleries, picking up magazines, seeing how other people see the world, I think is a great way to really expand your own visual eye as well.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, they put in a little plug here. Your shot is just like one of the best ways to do that. It's just a fantastic chance. You know, opportunity that I didn't have when I was young to look for photographs was I spent all of my time, when I wanted to learn about photography, I would go into the library and find the photo book section and then sit down on the floor and spend hours, you know, flipping through books by Yusuf Karsh and Annie Leibovitz. And that's how I learned about, you know, another way I learned about good photographs. But yeah, the internet's a powerful tool that way. The reason that we're looking at a wall of leaves here is that there's a sewer pipe here that I thought if we could back into it, it would make a really, really interesting point of view. But it turns out that the water level's too high, so you know, we won't actually get to go into the sewer pipe. Oh, there it is. It's all covered with.
Hey, Dan.
That's the other thing about photography. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say we had a couple other questions that, you know, Zach was asking about when to shoot black and white versus color. Somebody else, Yali from Yali Tang was asking, you know, exposure notes, what kind of filters. You know, do you have any tips on sort of, there's so many things now that people can do with their photos. What do you think about all of that?
You know, to go back to taking a picture right now in the middle of the day, this would be a great time to take black and white pictures because it has a little bit, you know, the color's not stellar right now, but the sky has got kind of puffy clouds. This would be a good place to shoot black and white right now.
Yeah.
Polarizing filters are a useful thing. What they do is they reduce glare on a scene. And so I always used to think of a polarizer as sort of extending the sweet light part of the day. Make your day a little bit, so if, let's say, if you knew the light was going to get good at 4:30, then 5:30 the light was going to be great. At 4 o'clock, you might be able to put that polarizer on there and kill a little bit of that glare and just make some pictures when it otherwise wasn't possible.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also have to admit to being a real sucker for, I mean, I love Instagram because a lot of times you'll take a picture and the light's not great and you're thinking, oh, how could this possibly work out? And then you tap some of those filters and you're just amazed at what happens. But for me, I really restrict that to sending pictures on Instagram on the phone. I don't like to get that heavy-handed for pictures that we're going to publish. And also, you know, I was pretty clear about that in our Your Shot assignment, that I felt that sometimes people just like did a little bit too much. Yeah, post-processing is nice if everything's not perfect, but when the light is really good, maybe we just need to leave well enough alone.
Right.
So now notice that I'm looking straight into the sun, and it's probably just like this horrendous glare. And as I sort of turn across the scene and look back at the boathouse, you can see that sometimes there really is a direction that you want to take pictures from one direction and not another. Tyler, were you able to send them that picture of the front of the kayak?
We didn't.
You guys?
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to send that now, because that's.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
We could kind of consider that my final picture of that, because what I did was at this time of day, the water is a kind of a nice green color to me, but I don't think it really renders photographically at all. And I used the most colorful thing I could find, which was the front of the boat right at my feet.
Right.
Yeah, here we have it pulled up right here.
Yeah. And I also used that boat to fill in. There's a lot of dead space in the water. You know, you can see the bridge and the arches and the other kayak coming through, but that boat sort of filled a dead spot there. So, you know,
Shadow
is it?
of the bridge points nicely into the tip of your boat.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
I think we're almost going to wrap it up here, but I did have one other question that a couple different people had chimed in with. This is from Dewey. From your perspective, what is the one most important aspect of a photo that will make the viewer feel it as if they were really there when you took it?
Human emotion. There's physical proximity, so if you look at my video feed right now, of course, I'm in the front of a boat. That helps feel it out. But if you look at, I'm trying to remember the pictures in the photo gallery. Well, I'm doing the same thing here that the first photo in my story was. It was a little kid holding their hands out to feel the rain falling. And you had a foreground and a background. And I think that those hands coming into the picture were human emotion. Sometimes the picture is just an interaction between the subjects of the photograph. And then really to pull that off, you've got to have familiarity with the subject. You've got to stick with the subject long enough till they get used to you being there, and maybe they just let their hair down a little bit. They're not so conscious of the camera, and instead of a person just staring straight into the camera, you get them showing a little of emotion. And so I think for me, feeling what it's like to be there is an emotional thing, so use that in your picture.
Absolutely. That's great.
When you're
All right.
at these, Dan, when you're at these scenes, like the picture you were talking about that was published in the Sense of Place story, where there's just a lot going on, how do you narrow down what you want your composition to be when there's just so many possibilities?
I default to the light. And so if there's a predominant direction of light, I decide, do I want it to be a backlit photo or a front lit photo, just what's going to work. So I will position where I stand to favor the light. Then I hold the camera up to my eye, and I just look and look and look and wait till the elements seem to fall into place.
Thank you so much, Dan. Before we wrap up here, we wanted to give a quick shout out to Heron's 3rd grade class and Bonita's 4th grade class. We hope you're still listening, and we hope you enjoyed this today.
All right, thanks so much for letting me come out on the river at lunchtime.
We're glad all your gear is still safe.
Yeah, well, I'm not at the dock yet. All right, bye. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Us.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.